Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. Logan Paulson there, Craig Hoffman here, and we will be there if there is Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor on Thursday.
Yes.
I feel like that was smooth enough, Logan. Pulled it off.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Tap Sports Bar. Hoffman show starts at 4 o'clock on the team, 9:80. Logan's going to pop by at some point during that, and then we officially get started with the Take Command pregame show at 6:30. It's official because we call it the Take Command pregame show, and we'll be simulcast on both the Team 980 and 106.7 The Fan. Of course, we'll be streaming live on YouTube the entire time as well. 4 o'clock, the stream starts on 980. 6:30, it starts on The Fan. So if you can't make it or just to come hang out and watch the game in general at National Harbor, make sure that you are tuned in on the radio or on the YouTube stream, and we will see you there. As for the defensive performance, this is going to be an interesting one, Logan, because they have given up 30 points in 3 of 4 games this season. That is not good. But when you look at this tape, my prediction is that you're going to have a lot of players that played really well.
Yeah.
And 17 points at least directly tied to explosive plays given up by one young rookie who competed his ass off and got beat a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, when you look at the first half, I think the defense is playing okay. I think they're playing in the way that Jack wants them to play. They're playing pretty consistent down to down. There's a couple of first downs here and there that you're like, man, I wish you could have made that tackle, or I wish that pressure would have got home, or whatever it is. But that's the nature of defense now. Is it's really hard to consistently outplay the offense. But I thought in the first half specifically, they did a pretty good job of containing that group, limiting the effectiveness of the run, and kind of limiting explosive plays down the field. And I forget what the exact score was going before that 3 points at halftime. It wasn't at 7-10.
It was 17-7. I mean, they give up. So the Washington comes out, has this beautiful 14-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown. The Eagles respond with their own 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. And then Washington scores again, and then it's 5 plays and out, 3 and out for the Eagles. And then it's really the one big explosive play to Devontae Smith, which is, I think, was on a 3rd and 8. And Jalen chucks it down there, and Forbes is really, honestly, in very good position. Yeah. Devontae mosses him, and a couple plays later, they kick a field goal. Like, that's the first half.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that encapsulates our point really well. On those other drives, they just limited the explosive plays of the Philadelphia offense. They did a really good job and said, we don't believe you can consistently drive the length of the field. They did it 1 time out of 3, and then before the half, during that 2-minute drive, they get an explosive play. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. We talk about it all the time, but explosive plays lead to points in the NFL, and this is a perfect example of that. And it's tough. This is an explosive offense. They have explosive playmakers, and it's really hard to contain explosive playmakers for 4 quarters. And I think you'd like them to the secondary of the Commanders to be a little bit more consistent. But on that play specifically, they're in quarters coverage. Forbes is in. I don't know if he could be in a better position, and gets his hand on the football. And Devontae,
if you freeze the ball at the catch point, or the play at the catch point, Smith is up full extension. Forbes has an arm between his arms, and he doesn't even catch it clean. Yeah. Like, he knocks his arm, he knocks the ball, and the ball kind of just falls back down to Devontae Smith as he comes down.
Yeah, and that's tough. And they get paid, they make plays too. And that's not the case with all the explosive plays that we're going to talk about right now. But for sure on that one, I feel if I'm the coach, there might be some technical thing that they want him to do differently, be in better relationships, keep his hips square longer, force him to the side, whatever it may be. But in terms of at the catch point position during the majority of that route, if you're just watching it as a layperson or even a fan of football, you're kind of saying, I don't know what they're exactly coaching him to do, but he cannot physically be in a better position, I don't think, unless he's actually, like, I don't know. He's really close to the guy. He's probably within a foot of the guy.
Yeah, I guess he could be one step closer to where he could jump a little bit higher and just cleanly knock the ball away. Like, right. So theoretically, yes, there's a better play to be made. But, like, 9 out of 10 times, 98 out of 100 times, if that you jump at that same point, Devontae Smith is not coming down with that football.
Yeah, 100%. And you, like you said, it kind of the serendipity of it, he knocks it out and it falls directly down kind of into his basket again. He's able to kind of clutch the catch, Devontae Smith. So credit to the Eagles on that one. And I think if there's one other point of general criticism you'd kind of levy towards the defense is that the front four, which I thought played better in this game than they did against Buffalo, still did not generate a consistent enough pass rush. Like there's times where Hurts is back there, patting the football, really looking down the field, and that is somewhat frustrating. But I also think that's what happens when you go against the best offensive line in football with a quarterback that can scramble. So that's something that I kind of jumps out to me. I don't think that'll be an issue this week against Chicago, but when you're going up against a really good group, like can you consistently win rushes? And there's a reason that that's the best group in football. And credit to Chase Young, he got a sack, he got a couple pressures on Jordan Mailata, a guy who, when I did my evaluation of Philly last week, is playing really high level football. So great job by Chase, but I think that on the whole, the group was relatively quiet.
Yeah. Let's double click there, and then
Yeah.
we'll circle back to Forbes and the rest of the explosive plays. John Allen has been incredibly quiet, and I'm not saying he's playing bad football, but like like Daron Payne has made plays. He had the 3 and out against Denver.
Right.
Montez has had some pressure, some quarterback hits. Like he shows up a couple times a game. He's obviously had some sacks earlier in the season. He had 3 in the first 2 games. Hasn't had one since, but he's continued to get occasional pressures. John doesn't feel like he's had any signature plays, any moments this year. I guess he had the 1 sack of Wilson where he had the spin move and kind of karate chopped him down.
Yeah.
But like by and large, he has had what I feel like for him, a quiet year. What's going on there and how do they get him back to like his Pro Bowl, all pro type of level versus just like, yeah, he's playing well.
Yeah, I think that's something that maybe we should do like a more long-term project on where I can watch all of his rushes and all of his snaps specifically, because you're just watching in these games, you're watching, kind of the whole defense. You're trying to figure out exactly what's going on for the pulse of the game. So if that's something you want to do, I don't have a problem watching.
Yeah, let's do it
and figuring it out. Okay, so let's do that. But it just what I would say is when you're working with new people earlier in the year, that can be very that can be a hindrance. And when I watched the Bills game, I remember specifically thinking he's still figuring out how to work with Chase more consistently. And I think when John has the green light, that green light is very powerful for a player. And I don't want to speak for John. I'm just speaking from other guys that I've talked to, like JJ Watt, for example, when I was in Houston. And he could just basically do whatever he wanted. And every rush opportunity, the defense was constructed around him getting a pressure, getting a sack. And so when Casey Tuhill's in there, when James Smith-Williams in there, when F.A. Obata's in there, they are there to support John. And now it's more of a 50-50 split in terms of John supporting Chase and Chase supporting John. And I do think one of the things I would say about Chase is going for it every single time. And so that forces John to kind of come back a little bit. And again, that was in the Bills game. I have to watch him more specifically in the Philadelphia game and some of the early games this season to kind of make that a definitive point. But that's something I would say that is affecting him is in terms of his efficiency, is he no longer is like the go guy. He's now working in conjunction with other people on the defensive line.
All right. So we'll obviously circle back to that. Or John's going to have 85 tackles on Thursday night against Justin Fields and company. And then the project is a little more fun because it's like, what did John Allen figure out between Sunday and Thursday to become so effective? All right, let's go back to Forbes.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like 17 points are basically directly, and not fully directly, but like pretty directly on him. You got the 3 that we just talked about to get them in field goal range at the end of the first half. Not much you can do there. You got Moss. It happens to everybody by Devontae Smith. Then you've got the bubble situation, the fake bubble or the fake screen where he jumps up on it and, Derek Forrest misses a tackle. That's actually, I've been probably a little harder on Forrest than I should have on that. That's a tough play to come back, and he's sprinting from the opposite hash and trying to tackle a big, strong man in A.J. Brown. His job is to do it, but he missed. And then, the pursuit is not good either to let A.J. Brown score on that. But it starts with Forbes doing some stuff that he's not supposed to.
Yeah, and I don't know the rules. I don't know what they're being coached to do, but basically it's a kind of a tight bunch. They short motion a receiver outside. They have A.J. Brown act like he's going to block the guy that's now bumped with the motion, who I don't know who it is, maybe St. Juiced. And excuse me. And so to me, when I look at that, the guy who's supposed to make the play on the bubble is St. Juiced, because that's his man. You feel the blocker coming, you go attack the football. When A.J. Brown goes to block St. Juste, Forbes is kind of in between. You can see he's looking at the bubble and kind of starts moving up towards the bubble. And I don't know, again, we don't know his techniques, but I'm saying if you're in true man-to-man coverage and your man is A.J. Brown, I would expect you to be a little bit more focused on him in that situation. But obviously, you're trying to make a play on the bubble. You're trying to do all these different things. I get it. But that would be my one question if I could ask Ron or ask Jack or ask, Coach Rock, the guy who coaches the DBs, what are his rules here, and is he doing what you want him to do? Because I think physically, obviously, like when you run a double move, like he stops his feet, A.J. Brown runs by him, and he's athletic. He does a good job of kind of getting approximately back in phase. I think he's about 10 yards away, but that's the whole point of running that double move, is to take advantage of an aggressive player. Great throw by Jalen, really great throw by Jalen Hurts, and obviously A.J. Brown does the rest. So in terms of things that I think are really interesting, or what are Forbes' rules exactly? Because Ron in his post-game presser was pretty adamant that they need him to play the techniques that they want him to play. And is that on this play? Is that on the catch to Devontae Smith? Or is that just more general? So that would be something, again, that this week, as Ron does his pressers and things like that, kind of get a better feel for what exactly they mean by that.
Yeah, and then there's another play. We'll get to the double move on the touchdown at the end in a second. But like, I think when Ron's talking about the technique stuff, there's the big play in cover 2. Cam does a really nice job coming over late and hitting Brown without picking up a penalty. It's like, oh, look, safeties across the league. It can be done. You don't have to concuss a guy as you come over and play physical and try to knock the ball out. So Cam does a good job of avoiding a penalty. Unfortunately, he's not there in time to get the ball out, though. But it's in part because it's a pretty free release up the sideline for A.J. Brown. And that's one where if you watch Kendall Fuller on the other side of the field, you see what I would assume is how it's supposed to be done from a technique standpoint compared to what Emmanuel Forbes is. I'll let you describe it in more detail.
Yeah, and so obviously we got to give a shout out to our guy John Keim, because he's the guy that's always kind of pointing this stuff out.
What's the Take Command podcast without a shout out to John Keim?
We got to give John Keim a shout out. So Fuller is doing in this cover 2. So cover 2, think of cover 2. It's like you got your 2 safeties, like your Madden circles, and then you've got your flat players who are your corners. The problem is people don't run straight cover 2 like that anymore. They run what I would call, or this team runs many versions of cover 2. This looks like cover 2 carry. So cover 2 carry is essentially cover 2, but the corner, the flat player, is going to get hands-on and then carry that vertical to a certain depth to try and eliminate the hole shot. So when you look at Fuller do this, he does a really good job on Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith tries to outside release. Fuller's shoulders are completely square to the line of scrimmage. He's widening them almost till he's out of bounds. Then when Devontae Smith goes vertical, Fuller opens his hips to the quarterback and gets depth with him as he goes. So he never is really out of phase with Devontae Smith at any point during the route. And if Hurts were to throw the ball to his side, I think Fuller could easily make a play on the football, and it gives the safety time and distance to come over and make this time, mostly to cover the distance to make the play. So that's Fuller doing it. When you look at Forbes, he does get hands-on, but it's a very different way of doing it. So one of the things, he's not square, right? He opens himself up, puts his right hand on him, pushes him to the sideline. But when he's not square, he can't kind of powerfully slide him to the sideline, right? So A.J. Brown's a big, strong guy, says, get that hand off of me, takes off of the sideline. And when you look at the relationship between Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown is probably 6 yards, would you say, Craig? 7 yards deeper in the route, potentially. And Forbes, who is very fast, is running in phase. But I'm saying if you are more physical in that cover 2 catch technique, you widen him, then open your hips to the quarterback, and then get depth. I don't think there's any possible way that Hurts can make that throw. I really don't. I mean, that's just my thought.
100%. I mean, Forbes does a good job of getting back in the play and making Jalen make a good throw. But he's Jalen Hurts. Like, that's what he does. Those downfield throws with accuracy is something that Jalen is exceptional at. Now, occasionally, like, will he throw it when there's coverage there and will it get picked? Yeah. Unfortunately for the Commanders, not in this game in terms of the interceptions. But, like, he's going to put it where the ball is supposed to be on the landmark. And because, like you said, it's as much as anything, the time. Like,
Yeah.
we talk about Cam being able to come over and deliver a good hit. What if that route takes 1 second longer? That's a pick. Like, that's how that stuff happens. And so there's a timing element to all of this as well, on top of just making the throw unavailable because you do widen it out and you're underneath it. And maybe, look, like, you want to create a turnover, that maybe that is a throw that Jalen makes, because it's pretty clear that AJ Brown and Emmanuel Forbes were talking the entire game. Like, he's like, keep feeding me. This rookie doesn't have anything on me type of stuff. And maybe Jalen throws it up there and Forbes gets a pick, or Cam comes over and gets a pick. But you don't give yourself a chance at that because you don't play the technique properly. You don't widen it out. You're not close enough, and you don't give your safety time to get over. So to me, as much as any play, that is an embodiment of Ron's comments, where it's not just playing the technique, it's playing the technique the way we're teaching it. And, like, yes, is there something to Emmanuel Forbes being Emmanuel Forbes? Yes. You drafted him because he plays a certain way, and that way generates turnovers. And, he's the NCAA's all-time leader in pick sixes. That's why you love him. But these are professional coaches who are doing stuff for a reason within the context of a scheme. And you gotta at least meet them halfway and play the technique the way that they're coaching it, because it works in conjunction with the rest of the defense, not just you doing your thing. Like, you don't want to lose the personality of the player, but that can be buttressed by better technique.
Right. But I think in this one, like, the technique probably increases the likelihood of him making that explosive play. Like,
Totally.
I think when you're talking about the composition of the player, you look at that bubble screen, you say, that you're attacking an aggressive football player, a guy who wants to get his hands on the football. In a man situation, you show him this fake bubble and he gets a little bit nosy. That, to me, is who Forbes is. And again, we don't know the exact technique there. Maybe you should get hands on AJ Brown. Maybe you should do a bunch of stuff. I don't know. But in this situation, I think the technique would have elevated his opportunity to be Emmanuel Forbes, because he's in better relationship to the quarterback, to the receiver, excuse me, and potentially could make a play on the football. So I think that's one. And I think that's probably the one, like you said, that's the one Ron's talking about with technique. And, maybe on the bubble screen, he should get hands on AJ Brown earlier, try to slow him down, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Playing, like, when you talk to Fred Smoot about playing DB, you realize there's a lot of nuance to the position that I think we all assume there is, but it's even more heightened in terms of
right.
How
it's also, you become more enlightened when you understand what the nuance is, right?
Correct.
It's one thing to understand. There's things I don't know. Cool. It's like, well, now that you know them, you realize, like, oh my God, that's really complicated.
Yeah, right.
Or, hey, the NFL is really fast. Then, you know that as a player coming out of college, and you get out there and you're like, oh, this is what fast is. The you don't know what you don't know type of thing, I think, is a big thing with DBs. Look, we talked about this a little bit in the post game. My attitude on this hasn't changed on the last one. I have no problem with the way Emmanuel Forbes played the double move, because the Eagles did something dumb and they got away with it, kind of, because, if Ron goes for 2 and they get it, or if the Commanders score in overtime, that costs the Eagles the game. And in a situation where you need a turnover, like, for the other side of that coin, where the Eagles are doing something dumb, is the Commanders need a turnover to get the ball back, unless the Eagles do something dumb, like score way too fast. And so if they're going to be silly enough to throw it and think they can sneak a first down and then be able to milk the clock down for a field goal, and you're Emmanuel Forbes and you're like, I'm going to jump this and I'm going to make the play of the game, I got no problem with it.
And the fact they're even throwing the ball there in any capacity is surprising. I mean, not that they're throwing the ball in any capacity, but I think it was like 3rd and short or 2nd and short. It's like you have an opportunity to, like, run the clock out here and be and totally control the game. So I agree that on that one. I know they have a way that they play double moves, and you see it earlier with Kendall Fuller. I think he gets a PI on it, but it's really, and so maybe Ron is talking about this also with regards to technique. But on the comeback and go, they ran it to Fuller's side earlier in the game, and Fuller does a great job of he moves to break on the comeback, but as the receiver is running by, he turns with him and kind of widens him to the sideline a little bit, and obviously that's illegal contact, but that, I think, is the technique that they're looking for to prevent this explosive play down the field. And it's so funny when I watch Fuller do it, I'm like, that is technically by letter of the law penalty, but it's like one of those ones where if they didn't call it, you totally understand why they didn't call it also. And I think if you're employing that technique in that situation on the double move, I think you are gonna be more consistently in a more effective position to make a play if you're the corner. Now, in the context of this game, You don't want him to do that because you don't want a DPI, and you want to make sure that the offense gets the ball back. I don't think he's thinking about that. We're just talking about like the technique on a down-to-down basis. But I agree. You want him to be aggressive there. Maybe he's not doing exactly what you want him to do with regards to the technique, but it ultimately, even though it's a bad play, ends up helping the team out. So,
yeah. That is Take Command, which you can listen to on demand anytime, anywhere in full, as that was just about a third of the podcast. We talked more about going for two. We, of course, reviewed the entire offense. So if you want that, check it out anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple's Podcasts, Spotify, the free Odyssey app, YouTube, 1067 The Fans page has the full episode. And there's another one coming tomorrow. We preview the Bears tomorrow morning. We'll flip that episode. It'll be out well before noon on all of our on-demand platforms. Then, of course, do not miss the Take Command pregame show live in person, Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor on Thursday. When we get back, you'll hear from Ron Rivera and Sam Howell, as it'll be time for our Tuesday Pick 6 at 6. Mr. Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you send me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just like giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
Yes. James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy, Ian Eagle, talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
exactly,
don't do it on, do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not the, why am I doing, let's keep going with the comments. We have a new submission to the Real Things Hall of Fame. the F-35 is a fighter jet that the military has. It is very expensive. Very expensive. The F-35 program costs the U.S. government / the military over $1 trillion. The F-35 gets essentially lost. And they're like, I don't know where this very expensive warplane went. And lo and behold, sometime the next day or later that day, it crashes somewhere, and luckily no one's hurt. But this $100 million plane is gone. Whoopsies. We crashed the plane. And this is an eyewitness account from a Charleston area television station of someone who heard the crash.
In the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, between a screech and a whistle. I said, what in the world is this? And I heard a boom. Then my whole house shook.
White says he didn't realize it was a plane at the time, so he didn't call anybody.
He first started getting me. I said, am I supposed to see the meteorite come out of space or something? And I said, well, if it's an airplane, it needed to be reported. Let the thing be flying this too low.
The F-35B airplane wreckage created an extensive debris field.
That boy, we gotta get a drop for the voice because it might be better than Steph Curry's.
I was gonna say, I feel like we have to do a comparison. Can I pull this off with? Yeah, okay. So I had to compare or see if I had enough channels on the board to do this. But we got Steph Curry here. We got Charlie Brown here. And we got our mans here.
His is better, though.
I think his is the best one. His is definitely, it's not quite Charlie Brown. It's definitely close to Steph Curry, though.
Yes.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always alive as well on the free Odyssey app. Final hour of the show, and I've got a rant brewing at 6:30. The more I've gotten to read about Ron Rivera's press conference, which I didn't get to listen to because it was, on the show. It started at 4 o'clock when, of course, we got started on this here radio show. There's a topic that has come up that is a pet peeve of mine, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it. So, yeah, that's coming at 6:30. But right now, it's time for the rest of the things that Ron said and some of what Sam Howell said in a Pick Six.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is time!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick Six at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan.
Number 1.
All right, let's get right to it with the injury updates. And this actually plays in a little bit to the rant later. Fedarian Mathis has been a complete zero for this team since he's been drafted because he's been hurt the entire time. So when is he going to get back? And also, what about F.A. Obata? Because the defensive ends right now, and frankly the defensive tackles, Deron Payne specifically, are playing way too many snaps. And getting F.A. back will help all across the entire line of scrimmage. You can literally play any position on it. So, hey, Ron, when are F.A. and Big Phil getting back into the mold?
Well, I think it's just a matter of time and opportunity right now, and we'll wait and see how things go. Each game brings something different, and we'll just see what happens after Thursday night.
That's so boring. So lame. Here's the thing. Both these guys are eligible to come back now in terms of they've served the time they need to after being on the preseason list for inactives. And now they can, both of them were preseason IR or in-season IR, I should say. They weren't even preseason because they got hurt in the preseason. So you go on IR, you miss 4 weeks, you're eligible to return. And, for Fedarian, I think it's a harder sell. Ridgeway's playing fine. Abdullah Anderson's playing well. there's no real rush there, except for the fact that he's a second-round pick that you would like to get some return of value for in the form of good play. But for FA, like if you're only going to play Casey Toohill 6 snaps, and for whatever reason, like I think Casey's done a very good job when he's been in the game. I think James Smith-Williams has done a good job, although James has had a couple of misses on some plays that have wound up becoming big plays this year. Slip a tackle here, guy runs. Like, it'd be nice to have a little bit of help behind, but at the end of the day, like you got to make those. But largely, like down in, down out does a very good job. Like, if you don't trust those guys for whatever reason, or if you don't want to play them more, maybe FA is your solution. But, like, you got to find a way to get the rotation where Deron Payne and John Allen and Chase Young and Montez Sweat aren't going to be tired and ineffective by game 9, nevertheless game 12. And F.A. Obata holds the key to that. So get F.A. back as soon as possible. You can find a place on the roster. Like, you make a move. If you want to, bump Abdullah Anderson down the practice squad, like, that's not going to be an issue. If you want to at this point bump KJ Henry or even Andre Jones Jr., who you're not playing outside of special teams, then maybe you could do that as well. But they played Jones in that first game after getting really excited about him in the preseason, and he made one huge mistake, and he hasn't seen the field on defense basically since. So the NFL game is hard. It's fast. Young guys, it ain't always built up for them. FA's been around. He knows what he's doing. Get that dude back as soon as possible.
Number two,
let's hear something from Sam Howell before we circle back to Ron Rivera and some bigger picture stuff. But for Sam, obviously a great, fantastic, lovely, wonderful bounce back week. And part of that was the balance between the run and the pass that EB provided him as a play caller. Here is how Howell thought the run game helped balance out what he and the passing offense were doing.
Yeah, I think we always want to, have more of a balanced attack. I think it's just kind of a flow of the game thing, and I think we were running the ball well, and we were doing a good job on first and second down that allowed us to continue to keep that balance. I think that's part of EB's plan every week is to try to have balance. Every good offense has balance, and that's definitely something we want to have, and it's just more of a how the game is going type of thing, whether you're running the ball well or not, and if you want to get away from running the ball, and then it all depends week to week on how the game is going. But I think the plan every week is to have a balanced game plan.
Obviously, the plan is to have balance. How well you execute it is going to depend on the opponent, the time, the score. But I think what you see is a team that, when they have a running game going, executes efficiently on offense. And the one area that I do think is, like, I don't say problematic, but one area where I think there's opportunity for improvement is second and long. I think that they have gone way too pass heavy on second and long, which sounds, I know, a little bit crazy. You're screwed. That's when teams are teeing off on Sam Howell, and I'd rather have 3rd and 8 because I tried on 2nd and 9 to run the ball again, and it didn't work, and I got 1 yard. And then 3rd and 22, which is what they had when they got sacked on a 2nd and 10 over the weekend. So I do think they haven't run the ball at all. I think statistically that's true. They have not run the ball at all on 2nd and 10 this year. So could they mix in a screen, a draw, just a straight up run play, like catch them in a bad look where they think you're going to pass it, and whether you use their aggression against them or knowing they're going to drop more players in coverage, use that advantageous numbers game to your advantage in the run game and pop off a 4-yarder, and all of a sudden 3rd and 6 is much more manageable. Or, God forbid, you get 6 yards and you're 3rd and 4. Like, that would be really good for this offense. And so I do think there are areas for opportunity, or opportunities for growth and betterment in second and long. But generally speaking, you see, even though there were some situations, especially that third quarter where they got bogged down, where running the football and being balanced actually backfired a little bit. Overall, they don't score 30 points without being balanced, because it keeps the defense on their toes. It keeps the pass rush at bay. And by the way, Brian Robinson's pretty freaking good. So that was very helpful to get him involved in the game.
Number three
is more from Sam Howell, and how he has tried to continue to grow and make quicker decisions in the pass game. How do you do it on Sunday, where he definitely succeeded in that area?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. And I think just being more decisive, and when there is running lanes, taking it and just getting what I can. And just trying to get the ball out quick. That's always my mindset going into every single game, and I think I did a good job of it last game, and I'll continue to try to do a good job of that. But yeah, just credit to the guys I have around me. I think offensively we played overall for the most part a pretty good game. Obviously would have liked to finish it out and got the win. But yeah, definitely some things that we can build on. And I think the main thing is that we feel like we can play a lot better. So we're excited to have an opportunity to play Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that Sam Howell suddenly, Anthony, is getting good at quarterback speak. He said a lot of nothing there. Our guys, he's growing up before our very eyes.
I love it, though.
I hate it.
You hate it?
I mean, if I was a fan, I'd probably love it. I'm a radio host. I want interesting. I want a little bit of...
You want more.
I want a little bit of insight. I want a little bit of information. Something that gives us a little something.
Yeah.
I think he's also probably
a little sore. He probably did work out again this morning.
They're getting ready. He's got to study quick. By the way, the next bite, the substance of the question, and he hinted at it a little bit in the beginning when he said...
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything helps get the ball out faster. One, a mental focus on it. Two, the play calling for sure helped. There was a lot more quick game, and there was probably more emphasis on it in practice last week, which also helps. But they also moved the pocket a little bit. The Eagles, the way they play, there's space in that defense in the way that there wasn't really against the Bills. It's something that Logan saw on tape when he watched the Eagles defense. I remember him saying on Take Command, he's like, look, this team is really good defensively, but there's space in this secondary. And if they can just give Sam enough time to throw, these receivers are going to find it. And sure enough, they found it time and time again. And they were able to get yards after catch in a way they haven't. But I think that, the more you have success doing something, the more likely you are to go back to it. And so as he finds success, getting the ball out quick, being decisive, he's going to continue to go back to that because why wouldn't you? That's how these things go. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Our pick six at 6 on a day where Sam Howell and Ron Rivera speak the 6 most important bites from the Commanders coach and quarterback. And one of them,
number 4,
is from the quarterback on the next opponent.
Yeah, they're talented. Obviously, the record is what it is, but it's definitely not a team you can take lightly. There's no easy games in the NFL, and they have a lot of really good players on their defense, and they fly around. They play hard, and you can tell they want to win, and it's definitely a challenge for us, and we definitely have our hands full. They do a lot of good stuff schematically on defense as well, so it's definitely a tough defense. And every defense in the NFL is tough to play against, so you definitely got to be ready to go, and you got to prepare. So yeah, we're excited for the challenge.
Anthony, Dan Levitard used to do a bit on his show where he'd have quarterbacks on. He'd just go, I'm not going to ask you a question. I just want you to give me about 45 seconds of quarterback speak. Ready, go. I think Sam would crush that assignment.
Yep, because what he just spat out was definitely that. A ton of... He might, really believe, every NFL, team has a solid defense.
They are. He's not... the thing is, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But there's levels to this.
Exactly.
Like the Bears' defense is tough and talented because they're full of NFL players, but it ain't tough and talented as the Bills. But he ain't going to go say that. That'd be stupid.
Exactly.
We could... You know what we could do? We could do a bit where we save that answer and we play it every single week and pretend like it's a new bite. Sam Howell spoke today about the defensive opponent. It's now, let's see, he'll do this again a week from now. He'll speak on Wednesday, so that'll be the 11th. And they'll be playing Atlanta, right? Next?
Yep,
is next
they play Atlanta next.
This is what Sam Howell had to say about the Falcons' defense.
Yep, applies to all.
And then Anthony played the bite. Is that a fine for you or a fine for me?
It's more so I exited out of the bite. I didn't know if I was going to use it again.
Oh, yeah.
Because I saved it because I didn't save it correctly the first time.
Yeah. I don't think that's a fine for anyone. It's just an unfortunate quinky dink.
Yeah. Lo siento.
But it would be a pretty funny bit if we did that. And if people are listening right now, they'd be in on the bit. But if you tune in next Wednesday, you don't know what's going on. But Sam, we could also do another game where we predict Sam Howell's answer, where you tell me the question or you could cut the question from the press conference. I'll answer it as Sam Howell, and then we'll see how close I get. You got to tell me the length of the answer, and then I'm going to try to nail it and see how close I get. I bet you I can get pretty close.
All right.
Our guy's getting predictable real fast.
Yeah.
NFL veteran stuff from Sam Howell. 35 years in the league, Ron Rivera, much more unpredictable.
Number 5.
Let's get to his thoughts on Chicago. And even before we get to Chicago specifically and where his team is at going into this game, think about a year ago. It was week 5 also. It was Thursday Night Football also. And it was the Bears also. That was the day the ESPN story dropped that ultimately brought down Dan Snyder. Carson Wentz, chaos ensued. Ron cursing at the podium that night. How different of a place is the organization in this year compared to last?
Obviously was the long snapper at that. I remember that question. And when that, very fortunate. Things have changed, and it's been different. It's been refreshing. As we talked about this a few weeks back, I don't know if you guys remember, but when you come in and your biggest concern obviously was the long snapper at that. I remember that question, and when that's your biggest concern is a player or a position, or something on the field, that's really cool. And it's one of those things that we're very fortunate to be where we are. I mean, what Mr. Harris and his group have brought has been very different, and it's allowed me, it's allowed us to keep the focus on football, the players as it should be, and what we do on the field.
I love that. That's a very tactical answer from Rivera. It's been very different. Oh, you think? No congressional investigations, investment of actual resources, decent human beings to deal with. They don't disappear on their yachts for weeks at a time, and we wonder if we'll ever hear from them again, or if they're just ducking Congress. Yeah, incredibly different. And I think, on the football side of it, Sam makes things so much different than where they were with Carson. Like, they knew by this time last year that Carson wasn't it. They were hoping, they were lying to themselves every day so they could show up to work and put in an honest effort and say, hey, we're going to make sure that if this goes, if there's a chance this could go right, we're going to give it every chance we got. But Carson was Carsoning, and he wound up having his worst game of the season and then breaking his finger last year against Chicago. So could not be in a more different place as an organization. Very, obviously, much more fun to cover, much more fun to be a fan of, much more fun to be a part of for everyone in and around the Commanders.
Number 6.
Last but not least, of course, there's one thing that could have gone better. The result on Sunday. Loss to the Eagles. How much is this team itching to get back on the field and avenge themselves for that 34-31 defeat?
I really do, and it's a good feeling. It's been, I've tried to talk to as many of the players as I can and just touch bases, see where everybody is, and the responses have been terrific. They really have. They've been tremendous, and there's a sense of eagerness right now. It's funny, I felt that on Wednesday, and I know I told you guys last week that I thought we had a good Wednesday. I felt that way about yesterday, coming in and just, in less than 24 hours, they were back here, and, there is this little bit more maturity, I think, and kind of in a really good way.
I actually, Anthony, for both Ron and Sam, they sound exhausted, which would track. You just played Sunday. You're cramming. They're probably up late, especially the coaches and a quarterback I could see. Although I always tell my quarterback, bro, go to sleep. You getting physically recovered is going to be way more important than a little bit of extra study time. But they sound tired. I hope tomorrow on their off day, they just both sleep all day.
This how Ron conducted his presser today. He was very much so relaxed.
Just slouched in his chair?
Yeah. You might be onto something, and you didn't probably even get to see it. So
no, I didn't.
So
I don't know if you knew this, Anthony, but I was sitting right here.
Oh yeah, you were. I forgot.
Yeah, because our show starts at 4 and the press conference. Yeah, and be the breaks sometimes. All right, that's our pick 6 at 6. There was something else that Rivera talked about today, though, at the press conference that's got me a little worked up. We'll let you hear it, and we'll talk about it next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. They tell us we should not really engage in certain parts of the content process. We should definitely post our content. We should tease our content. Hey, tell the people when things are happening on the show. Put that out there on social media. Then make sure you share the content afterwards. But definitely do not engage with the people who comment on it. It's the deepest, darkest underbelly of the internet. No. Do not read the comments. But every single week, 5:30 on a Wednesday, what do we do, Anthony Haney?
We read
Yep.
those comments, baby.
I'm so glad that you gave us a really good one there, because next week we're going to have a fancy new intro for this. We just got the big voice guy, old Jim Cutler, to do some stuff for us. And in my head, the fancy intro includes Anthony going, read those comments, and he just gave me the material I needed to work with. He didn't even know that. You didn't know that, Anthony. Tell the people you didn't know that.
I did not at all.
But next week, you bet your bottom dollar that you're going to see it. It's a running bit on the show, but also like an actual thing. I'm trying to learn French. My wife and I are going to Paris next year for the Olympics, so I'm trying to learn French. It's incredibly difficult. I'm very bad at it. Tips for someone learning French. You did the reverse. For people that don't know, you started as a French speaker, and I was reading on Wikipedia, so I don't know if it's true, but also Haitian Creole, first two languages, and then had to learn English, which I know is very, very difficult to learn when it's not your native language. French, English, they don't seem compatible. What's your tip for me as I try to learn French?
I would say watch movies in French with English subtitles. That's what I did. I watched a lot of movies in French, but I had the English. No, I watched a lot of movies in English with the French subtitles. So like movies, music, it's kind of something that's like easy, like on the brain. It's not too much information, but you can still enjoy it, and you can see the conversation, because that's the hardest part. Learning like a little word, like to say like, hey, my name is this or whatever, that's easy. But holding a conversation, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, right now I'm really just trying to master, like, I'm American, do you speak English? Because I think in Paris I can get away with that.
Yeah, so je suis américain, et je ne parle pas français.
See, even the way you said that is not the way Duolingo says to say that. So I'll just have to come back to my new French tutor, Benjamin Sejus. BSJ, I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Sure.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I am Craig Hoffman, the host of this radio show, who has half hour left, which is enough time to bring up a topic that we might need to revisit down the road. Certainly we will in some form or fashion, but might have to revisit tomorrow with you on the phones. But I'd like to talk about something that Ron Rivera said today. That is, to me, him telling on himself. And it is him explaining his philosophy on something in a way that I just disagree with the philosophy. And I think it is one of, if not the single biggest limiting factor of his success in Washington. And that is his use of high capital. And by high capital, I mean high draft picks and big money free agents, where he has been, and along with his front office, I wouldn't say an unmitigated disaster, but extremely ineffective. The stars on this team are John Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Terry McLaurin. If I take those four, I'd say those are probably the best four players on the team. The only All-Pro on the team last year is Jeremy Reeves as a special teamer. Tress Way has been very good, although he's a punter, so how much you want to count him, fine, whatever. Every single one of those players predates Ron Rivera in Washington. The stars on this team are guys that he did not draft. And the way you get those guys is you either pay a lot of money for them, you get lucky on a late round pick, or the best method, how every single one of those guys I just mentioned arrived, is in the first 3 rounds, but especially in the first, and that's the case obviously for Sweat, Allen, and Payne, you take players that develop into stars. And today, Ron Rivera was asked about his second-round pick this year, which is Quan Martin. And to date, through 4 games, almost a full quarter of the season, Quan Martin and I have played the same amount of defensive snaps.
Well, he does. We do have high expectations for him, and it's just a matter of time. But you also got to consider the position he plays. I mean, you've got Defoe, and you've got Cam Curl, and you've got Percy Butler, who we drafted last year as well. So it's a good group of young guys. And when you got that many guys, the opportunities, they're not going to come. But, we're trying to make sure he's ready that when that opportunity is there, that he gets the opportunity to go out and play and perform by being ready to go.
No. Wrong. Incorrect. Bad decision. And if you want to, there's so many ways in which that is mind-blowingly silly and really roster malpractice. If you have all those guys and you believe in all those guys, then why are you taking another one? Every single guy he mentioned is on their rookie contract. It's not like one of them is about to leave. I guess Cam could, but I think Cam Curl's the best and most important of that bunch, so you probably are going to plan on re-signing him. Where are his snaps coming from, not just this year, but next year and for the next 3 years? That doesn't make any sense. And if you want to say he's going to be a nickel corner eventually, well, then why aren't you saying, let's get him snaps there? It's clear they drafted him as a safety because that's what Ron just said. But if you want to say he's going to be a nickel, then instead of cross-training, of course you still want to cross-train other guys, but this year, instead of being Benjamin St. Juste, we got to kick you back inside, Kendall Fuller, we like you outside, we're going to keep you there. Now we got to find a place for Emmanuel Forbes, who you drafted in the same draft one day prior. Where's the snaps for Quan Martin? They're not going to be there. And they're not going to be there for the foreseeable future because Benjamin St. Juste is good and not going anywhere and still on his rookie deal for another year or two. Kendall Fuller's been their best corner for 4 years running, which some years has been said more about the other corners, but this year Kendall's been incredible. He's actually made the first quarter PFF All-Pro team. That's how good Kendall Fuller has been through 4 games this year. He's allowed 5 yards the entire year. And he's still in his, he's almost 30. I think he's 29. So it's not like he's young, but he's not ancient. And so where are the snaps coming from? They did the same exact thing in the same exact round last year. And Fedarian Mathis, to this point, we have no idea how good he is because he hasn't played due to injury. But he's also playing behind John Allen and Deron Payne. And the thing is, at the time, that felt like a smart, thinking ahead decision because you weren't going to pay Payne. Well, then you did. So why do you have another guy who you don't have snaps for? Maybe it's like, oh, we're going to play a bunch of Cinco front. Hey, Chris Jones was stuck behind a couple of all-pros and Pro Bowlers like Dontari Poe early in his career. And then Chris Jones became the Defensive Player of the Year as a second rounder. Like, is that your plan for Phil Mathis? Maybe. And if it turns out that way, then this segment's going to look very, very silly in a couple years. But they didn't they eventually moved on from Dontari Poe and moved on from some of the guys that were ahead of Chris Jones so that Chris Jones could get on the field. And this is the problem, or one of the problems, with the high draft picks and the high free agent pricing, or high price free agents that Rivera has brought in. And it's what keeps your team mediocre despite a bunch of other good decisions and smart strategy choices that propel you out of the NFL's basement. Like, you do some good, some bad. They meet in the middle, and that's where you find Ron Rivera, in the middle with this team. Obviously, William Jackson III, total bust. Jamin Davis turned into a very good football player, but they were at a position where you do play guys 100% of the snaps. They refuse to play him there because they think it's not their best option. That means you missed. That means he wasn't worth the first-round pick. And I think that's actually a mismanagement of Jamin right now, who's a better player than Cody Barton. So this is all very silly to me because, like, the guy that they actually seem to have gotten right, even though it took longer and they probably overdrafted him, a.k.a. they could have gotten him in the second round, is Jamin. They refuse to play him, even though he's out there killing it. On the other side, you've got like a guy like Quan, who can't get on the field because there's no room for him, and drafting him made no sense. And in the meantime, the very top of your roster, and while they've done a good job of keeping those guys, it's really not that hard to keep stars in the NFL. You pay them what they're worth, and they sign the contract. So, like, the best compliment I can give about the top of the roster under Ron Rivera is they've kept guys that he inherited. By the way, after 1 year of success together, he moved on from the guy that was most responsible for drafting them in Kyle Smith. Huh? And so Ron was asked later in the press conference about the 2023 draft class, which has taken, outside of Emmanuel Forbes, a combined like 15 snaps. Ricky Stromberg's come in for a few when Sam Cosmi went out. Andre Jones had the seventh or the fourth or 4 snaps in the first game as a 7th rounder. 5th rounder KJ Henry hasn't been active for a game. Quan and so non-special team snaps, you're talking about like 15 snaps, literally. I think it's 5 for it's like 6 for Chris Rodriguez, 5 for Stromberg, and 4 for Jones or something like that. That's it. That's it for the year. Obviously, Braden Daniels has not played any snaps yet. So you got an entire draft class in a critical year when you're a young football team, not getting any experience outside of Emmanuel Forbes. What gives?
I think because we've got some pretty good guys in front of them. You know, we really like who Ricky Stromberg is, but you know, Nick and Kaz and Sadiq, you know, they've been doing a pretty good job. When there's an opportunity for those guys to play, they'll be ready to go. I mean, that's just kind of, you know, how it is. But, you know, when we draft, and just because you draft a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round doesn't necessarily mean he's an automatic starter, you know. When I came into the league, guys that were drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round weren't expected to play right away. Usually the only ones that are expected to play right away were first rounders, and that wasn't even all the time either. So I just think, you know, in a situation when you feel good about what you have in front, what it does is give you very good depth. And you just got to continue to develop those guys and get them ready to go so that when their chance comes, you know, they have a chance. They have an opportunity to go out there and show you what they're capable of. And, you know, we feel really good about who these guys are. You know, Quan had a little bit of a setback after the first game. You know, he went into the protocol and ended up missing a game and had to work himself back into playing shape, and actually played very well last week on special teams. He had 2 tackles, and we were talking about that as a group of us. Just thinking, you know, because when you watch young guys go out there and perform and you see them play on special teams, that's when they get your attention, especially defensive backs, defensive, you know, linebackers, defensive ends. If they perform on special teams and at a high level, you know that kid's going to make an impact. And as an example, you talk about Defoe, you talk about Camp Curl, You can talk about Percy. Those three guys, when they had their chances to go out and perform on special teams, they really did. And it just kind of told us they were going to be ready. And Cam Curlick probably accelerated through that faster than anybody I've seen as far as a 7th-round pick goes. And the other two guys performed very well. And, Defoe got on the field right away. And then last year, Percy did some stuff, and Percy got on the field, So I think this is all part of the growth and development of guys. Again, just because you draft a guy high doesn't necessarily mean he's got to play right now if you've got a player in front of him that's doing a pretty good job.
I'm sorry for making everyone listen to that. What incredible nonsense. First of all, he talked about when he got in the league. And even if you want to talk about him getting in the league as a coach, that was 25 years ago. Like late 90s, Rivera started coaching. If you want to talk about when he got into the league as a player, that's 40 years ago. What are you talking about? And playing special teams has nothing to do with playing defense, but it has almost. Yes, on special teams, DBs have to chase and tackle in space, which when you're a safety is a relevant skill. But you don't have to read anything. You're not playing coverage. You just go run. And then you hit, because that's what special teams is. And honestly, in kickoff coverage, you don't even have to hit anything anymore. You just have to run, because nobody returns kicks. That's why Troy Apke, who's great at running and okay enough at tackling, has carved a 7-year career out of nothing as a special teamer, even though he stinks the high heavens on defense. All due respect to Troy Apke. What's he talking about? And just from a pure philosophical level, that explains everything. Because if you think that high round picks don't have to play right away, the NFL is laughing at you as you take a bunch of guys that no one else considers high round picks. Which means you're overdrafting everyone. Then you're not giving them a chance to develop at the right rate. And no wonder Ron Rivera, outside of a very few select players in a 15-year head coaching career, has not coached stars. Superstars. There's been like a couple. Cam, obviously, one of the most ridiculous talents in the history of the league. Dude was 6'5", 240, ran a 4.5, and had the best arm arguably in the league for a stretch. And you kind of wonder now in hindsight, if he had had better OCs and a different head coach, what his career would have looked like. And he still won the bleeping MVP and took that team 15-1 to a Super Bowl in 2015. Luke Kuechly was one of the most undeniable, foolproof, could not screw it up players in the history of this league. One of the 10 best linebackers ever, would have been that on any team he went to because of his intellect, his work ethic, his speed, his skill, his reactions, his everything. He's had a couple other, Star Lotulelei had some good runs. He's had some other good defensive players. That's great. All the guys that we've talked about here have gotten better under him, sure, like Daron Payne, but Daron Payne was going to get better under pretty much anybody. That's the point. He didn't pick Daron Payne. Daron Payne was given to him. And then he's just like, oh, yeah, we kept him. We paid him. We pay our guys. Cool. Good job. Offer me a bunch of money to not have to move my family and play with a bunch of guys I like and have a chance at winning, perhaps, and I think I would sign that paper too. If I'm Josh, I hate to say this because I don't talk about people's jobs flippantly. But if I'm Josh Harris and I hear that, I'm like, let's put that in the back pocket. And when we have job discussions after the season, if things don't go well, I'm going to bring that back up. I'm going to hold that up, and I'm going to hold the 2-point conversion decision that goes against all the analytics up and be like, hey, man, take these and go somewhere else because you're not my guy. That's the cold, hard reality of the NFL. It's a hard job. There's not a lot of people that are great at it, the head coach thing. But when you have philosophies like that, you're not going to be successful. There's enough other dudes that know better that you're not going to run a consistently competitive, high-level organization. It's just a philosophical error. End of rant. Anthony, I am excited to take the video of me screaming. Not screaming. I don't think I lost it on that. It's controlled rage. And you laughing hysterically. And I'm going to take the sound out and then just put it out and go, what are we talking about?
I really wish we could have captured your face, though, because it was one of
it's there. I didn't have a graphic up or anything. And how would you describe for the radio audience my face listening to that 2-minute drone from Rivera of wrong information?
It's really hard to describe.
It kind of went from amused, to pained, to confused.
It was ugly.
Don't call my face ugly. My wife will kill you.
Not saying you're I'm not saying you're ugly.
Thank you.
But I'm just saying the face. It was.
I really twisted you up there, didn't I? I got him good. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back on this very silly radio program, our silliest segment of them all, it's time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones. Fortier, how are you, and are you using the headphones that I sent you?
I am using the headphones that you send me, so I'll not be pulled over. And I got to tell you, man, seeing the craziness coming out of Chicago today with the Justin Fields comment, with the DC abruptly resigning, it's just giving me flashbacks to what this team used to be like. And I'm like, wow, I'm talking about football in a stadium? That feels odd.
Right. One, God, this call quality is just exceptional. So just, I got to say, I'm going to send you a clip later just so you can hear how clear you are. Two, we actually, so earlier in the show, we did a segment called This, That, and the Other Thing, and we wound up putting the Bears stuff in that. And yeah, it felt very oddly familiar, but also safely distant, which I think is good. All right, we got a lot to get to and not a lot of time. So first, let's...
James Smith-Williams just pulled up and honked at me. I'm on the radio with Craig Hoffman right now. Do you want to say something?
What's up, James?
How you doing, man?
What's up, James? Although you probably can't hear it because this is just in Sam's headphones.
Quick. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Feeling good. Just talking to Sam. Last time we did a hit with Sam, he put Matt Paris and Ben Standing on, so this is an upgrade.
Way better. Yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Definitely an upgrade.
All right, let's make sure nobody gets in trouble here. All right, James, drive home safely.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right, goodbye. James Smith-Williams, everybody. I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So, forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy Ian Eagle talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, and I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world.
Exactly.
Don't do it do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not why am I doing... Let's keep going with the comments.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, I'm going to try to send you this one more time. We got Real Things, Real People said in real microphones coming in just a moment. Actually, tell you what, we're just going to do this one tomorrow because we have, like 3 minutes left in the show, 2 minutes left in the show. All right. Well, that's a bummer. And I'm sure you have other good things for Real Things, so we'll get to those in just a moment. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got, no, I don't want that Peyton Manning thing. There was some really funny Peyton Manning stuff from last night. There was one point where he was talking about like the QB sneak or like a push play, and he's like, you got to get your hand on the guy's butt in a different place. And you're like, whoa, Peyton. There's a Daniel Jones interception where Eli lost his mind. The Giants, by the way. Yikes, man.
Man, boy, was I wrong. I don't think I'll pick the Giants the rest of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was wrong about them on a macro level. Like, I thought they were going to be good because I thought Dable was really good. And
yep.
Turns out last year was a bit fluky, looks like.
They're only good with Saquon.
They're 3-8. I saw a great stat earlier that in the 61 games Saquon has played, the Giants are 20-41.
20-41 with Saquon?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right, under Dable, when Saquon has played. Well,
definitely
when he
better.
hasn't played.
I'd have to look that up. I don't have that stat wasn't in the tweet, Anthony.
No, it was not, because I was 20-41. Good gracious.
Yeah,
but
good.
He also wasn't there his rookie season. Crazy.
Yeah, so there's that. All right. Anyway, it's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not gonna be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, we got time for one real thing that one real person said into a real microphone, and that person is Nikola Jokic, the defending NBA Finals MVP, NBA champion, who was mad at first that he had to go to a parade to celebrate said championship, but ultimately had a blast there, and apparently the fun did not stop all summer long, as he said at Nuggets Media Day.
Was this past summer the most fun you've had since you've been in the NBA?
No. I think it's actually opposite.
Oh, change
why?
Because we played 2.5 extra months and recovery and everything, so it was good. But I had fun. Summers that I had more fun.
Does Nikola Jokic hate playing basketball?
I think so, Craig.
I actually don't think he hates playing basketball.
He doesn't like how long the postseason is.
Yeah.
Which I can understand.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, like, that's what made the LeBron run so crazy. Like, that dude played in the finals for 8 straight years. And in 2 of those summers, 12 and 16, he also played for Team USA in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on his greatness. You know that's my guy.
I thought you can speak on his greatness because he is your guy.
Well, I would need, 3 hours to do that.
Oh, well, we only have about 40 seconds as of right now. Unless I misread your hand signals, and now I'm already way over.
Yeah, you definitely did, but it's okay.
Oh, I thought you said 56-36.
Oh, I said 55-36.
Oh.
But it's all good. We can do 56-36.
Yeah, I figured as much. We just got to take out a thing.
See? Look.
I know how this
same
works.
page.
I know how this works.
Yep.
So now we got 20 seconds left in the show.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we'll have Clinton Yates because it's a Wednesday. We can tell the folks that. Working on a couple of other things. And then Thursday we'll be at Tap Sports Bar. Which, by the way, we have to check if you're coming or whether you're manning the
Yeah,
ship
I forgot to execute that today.
Good thing we have our meeting tomorrow. Oh, hey, look, everybody. The show's over. See you tomorrow.